Techs on Techs. This is Jed Sunwall. This month we're talking to Cyd Harrell, devout civic technologist, about Jorge Luis Borges' Tlön, Uqbar, Orbis Tertius. This is a highly concentrated dose of Borges and a lot of his ideas in an insanely elaborate and dense story. I highly recommend reading it. You can find versions of it online. I'll link to one in the show notes. Just a spectacular book. It covers so much territory, so many ideas. It's the kind of thing you can think about for the rest of your life, and it merits rereadings and reconsiderations all the time. I'm so glad Cyd recommended that we discuss it, and you'll see she's just a great person to talk to about it. It has such a great perspective on technology and how it shapes our world, and how it governs the way that we interact with the institutions that govern us. It's just she's the perfect person to talk to about it. I'm so glad she came on, and I hope you enjoy it. See you on the other side. All right, Cyd, welcome to Techs on Techs.
Thank you so much, Jed. It's so great to be here.
So, so today we're going to talk about Borges' Tlön, Uqbar, Orbis Tertius. You reached out and said you wanted to talk about Borges, and I said, absolutely. And I will confess that I shied away a little bit from this one because it's so heavy.
It's wild.
Yeah, but it's definitely one that I've wanted to talk about. And so, but you pushed me, said, let's do it. And so here we are. I'm very excited about this.
Me too.
So now, but before we begin, we have to know whether or not you are a technologist.
I would say yes, but I am very specifically a civic technologist.
Oh.
So in my day job, and I should be very clear that I'm here in my personal capacity today, I work for the government of the city and county of San Francisco, heading up all of their digital work, delivering services to people via the web and other online methods. And I've been a QA person, a user researcher, product manager over time. So I definitely identify as a technologist.
Great. Yeah. I mean, and you live in, I think what like some would say is kind of like the technology capital of the world. I mean, the Bay Area.
San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a bit, I mean, I'm also, we go way back, we first met in the Code for America.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's about right. Early days of like civic tech excitement. But one, I guess I didn't know this. Are the city and county of San Francisco the same government? How does that work?
It's a unified government. So that makes things really interesting in terms of we don't just have a police force, we have a sheriff. And we have multiple park systems, and we have all of the health and aging and child support agencies that go with being a county, along with all the city things.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I didn't realize that. All right. Well, something that's the kind of Wikipedia hole I might fall down like at some point.
There are 5 or 6 unified governments in the country.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's another conversation. We have enough on our plate with this story.
Yeah.
So before I'm going to explain it in broad strokes, but before I do, I just want to give you a quick chance to describe sort of like why it came to mind for this podcast.
Yeah. So, I hadn't thought of it in years. And then back, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, time is a little weird in Silicon Valley, which totally fits Borges. But there was this fad where the bros were collecting these tungsten cubes as desk objects and so forth.
Uh-huh.
And it reminded me of something that happens towards the end of the story where a little weird metal cone falls out of someone's pocket. And this is evidence that the new world, which is called Tlön, is coming for certain. And that fad made me think about this story again. And I've gone back and read it. And there are a bunch of things that resonate with what we see going on with cultish behavior and cults among our technologist colleagues these days.
Okay. I love it. I mean, that was what kind of pushed me over. You're like, we should talk about this story. We should talk about techno cults. And I was like, I'm in. Like, I love talking about cults. So, all right. So this is a story. As always with Borges stories, I will embarrass myself trying to just explain it. It's like
What the
12
heck
pages
happened
long.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So there are three parts of the story. It's still short. It starts out with a sort of conversation. I mean, Borges recounting a conversation with his friend, where his friend quotes a heresiarch, I think is how you say it, but like um, from the land of Uqbar, who said this thing about how mirrors and copulation are abominable because they reproduce things or reproduce people.
For men. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, that's weird. Like, who said that? And it's like, oh yeah, it's from this encyclopedia. And they go and they pull out the encyclopedia, and they can't find an article about this place called Uqbar. And Borges is like, I think my friend just made this up. But eventually they realize there is actually somewhere there's a singular copy of this encyclopedia that has had pages appended to it with like a 4-page article about this country called Uqbar. And like again, it's like, long story short, it's like this story contains like such an enormous universe in just a few pages. But they eventually find a full book of an encyclopedia. It's volume 11 of a fuller encyclopedia that's about Tlön, I believe, or is it about
Yeah, it's
Uqbar?
about Tlön,
It's about
which
Tlön.
is one of the things in the 4-page article that they find about Uqbar is
Yeah,
that Tlön's arts and culture do not deal with reality in any fashion. They're all fantastical, and they're mainly about these two non-existent lands, one of which is called Tlön.
right. So you're saying in Uqbar, the only thing they
Yes.
think about is like this other planet, basically called Tlön,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay, so they have an entire encyclopedia about Tlön,
Yeah.
which is okay.
But they
And
only
then,
have this one volume at this point.
yeah, they only have one volume of it, and then yeah, the second part of the story really revolves around like talking about Tlön and like its what we might call its epistemological landscape. Who knows?
Yeah.
Teleology is a
Very
word.
strange epistemological landscape. Yeah.
Philology, I think, is the term that you use. I don't
Sure.
know exactly. Okay.
Well, related to
Um.
linguistics and
Yeah.
history together. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, like they don't have nouns, for example.
On one of the islands,
On
but
what? Yeah, like yeah, part of the planet,
yeah.
and then the third part is kind of like a almost like a postscript or something like that, and just saying like, we had that one, this one volume of it, um, but then they talk about sort of like where it came from and like learning to sort of the discovering of like who was behind creating this thing. Um, and then that's where we get into the metal cone thing, where it's like
Yeah.
ideas from Tlön basically start invading the real world.
Yeah.
And kind of like how that happened. I mean,
And there's a
this is
secret society that over 300 years has gone and done this project of creating another world through an encyclopedia.
that that's right. Yeah, it's sort of a deliberate act of like creating this world within our world by creating this encyclopedia. So I mean, look, this is not no one listening to
Well,
this at this point,
pieces where one of the sentences in the
please.
last paragraph is, "The world will be Tlön."
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So at the end of the story, it's actually winning.
Yeah. 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 It's this alien um, invasion of who knows
Yeah.
what, of like a way of being that
Yeah.
cannot be stopped. Um, all right. So just so in case it's not clear, like this is not listening to our conversation will not be a substitute for reading this thing. Like you have to go find it and read it. This isn't
Yeah.
all a spoilers podcast, but like roughly what we're dealing with here is I think we said in like the right before we started recording is like it's a story that's like multiple layers deep. It's a story about a phony encyclopedia article that is linked to a phony entire separate encyclopedia that describes another planet with its own way of living. Um, and how the ideas of like the description of that planet have started to invade humanity. Yeah, sort of like that's kind of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that there were a group of people who set out to do this.
Right.
Um, right. One of the things that strikes me about the story is it takes them a lot longer than it would take now. So it's sort of, these 300 years of this secret society working together,
Yeah.
laboring on this creation of an encyclopedia that covers the actual description of this other planet. And when I think about Wikipedia as,
Yeah.
not an entire description of Earth, but a lot of Earth's knowledge created in the course of 20 years or so, I think that is one interesting thing he guessed wrong about. But the secret society wants to do this to bring about a different world just to see if they can.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where I connect it to some of the ways that we see Silicon Valley operating and putting stakes in the ground and saying, like, this world will be the world of crypto. This world will be the world of generative AI. This world will be whatever the thing is. And
Yeah.
can we will it through creating artifacts and things that represent it as if it is real?
That's right. There's a sort of a foisting upon the world of, uh, well, just concepts, broadly.
Yeah.
um,
Concepts,
but
ideas, then leaking
yeah,
through. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and then, but then start to change people's behavior. I mean, people who, you know, uh, we've lived in our lifetime, people get really, putting a lot of stock in like how many retweets they get or something like that, which is a
Right.
concept that was like unimaginable 20 years ago.
Yeah. Every now and then I type a sentence and I'm like, if I were to explain this to someone in the 90s, like, how long would it take?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on this podcast, but like I have a bit about this sort of, which is that like when I, growing up in the 90s was reading Wired magazine and like multimedia was all the rage, and it was like, yeah, there's like multimedia coming and like we're going to have like
Yeah.
interactive entertainment.
Discs with things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, CD-ROMs. And like, but there was this concept of like of interactive entertainment somehow, and it was like the only way that people could conceive of it was kind of like a choose your own adventure movie or something.
Right.
And and then I don't know when it happened, but sometime in the past 10 or so years I saw Mr. T on Twitter wishing Queen Elizabeth a happy birthday, and I was like, oh yeah, it's like Mr. T just tweeting at Queen Elizabeth
Queen
because they both
Elizabeth.
had Twitter accounts, just being like, happy birthday. Just like Queen. And I'm like, oh, that's what interactive entertainment is. It's just sort of like Mr. T and the Queen are talking to each other, and like you can like it
Right.
and retweet it and stuff. Like,
Well, and then if you
yeah,
know something, it's like, oh, is that Mr. Tweet T's team tweeting at Queen Elizabeth's
right.
team? Like, do either of the actual people represented by these avatars participate in this exchange?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which feels very Tlön like in that.
Totally.
Yeah.
You have concepts of people. Yeah, these avatars, right?
Yeah.
Um, just one other sort of aside, since you mentioned Wikipedia, I came across, I'll have to put this in the show notes, but uh it was on Instagram that like a video of this came up, but it's describing how the name for the Pringles mascot, like the can, like the
Yeah.
potato chips or whatever, he never had a name, and then some kids just like edited the Wikipedia page to say that his name is Julius Pringle. um
So encyclopedias are still powerful.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Wikipedia is
Yeah.
obviously like really powerful, and like um but I mean, long story short, like that's the official name now. And it was because of this prank. Pringle's got like a new marketing manager who's like looking up. He's like, okay, just figuring out this person's figuring out what their job is, and like reads up about the brand on Wikipedia, and was like, oh, it's Julius Pringle. Like,
I mean, that's
and then-
wild. There was a
yeah.
similar sort of thing with Carl the Fog in San Francisco. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
the fog never had a name. And then somebody what I really admire is that we still don't know who, and this has been going on for like 17 or 18 years, but somebody started a Twitter account as Carl the Fog, and it's a kind of trolly Twitter account that if it ever gets hot in San Francisco, the fog is laughing at everyone baking and saying like, haha, I'm in Hawaii, suckers,
Yeah.
you know, all that stuff. Um, but people have just adopted it, and now the fog is called Carl.
I love it. Great.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. To name it is to
yeah,
give it life. And that's, I mean, so actually, I mean, that is actually sort of a perfect segue back into like the world of Borges.
yeah.
And actually, I want to point out something. I mean, he does this all the time. In a lot of his stories, he has these funny little bits. I know you've got a bunch of sections highlighted, so we'll have a lot to get through.
I
But
do. Yes.
he, so he does all this great signposting, and so he's hanging out with his friend, with his boy Bioy, so who's literally
BOA,
is a
yeah.
real person, Bioy
Talking
Casares, who's
about
his friend.
American population, as you do.
That's right. And they were talking, so he'd come over to dinner. I'm just going to read it. They lost all track of time in a vast debate over the way one might go about composing a first person novel whose narrator would omit or distort things and engage in all sorts of contradictions, so that a few of the book's readers, a very few, might divine the horrifying or banal truth. So he's just right away saying, he's like, buckle up. Like,
Yeah,
and also like kind of like laying down the challenge, like, are you going to be one of the few readers who understands the truth
that's
here?
right. Right. And he has so many stories about cults being carried out over centuries, right? And passed down through little signals and so forth. And I think he mentions, Rosa or something like that somewhere in here as
He
connected to
does
it.
pretty early on. And actually, I'm curious to know if you have. I'd never heard of it. I mean, I've read this story before, but that was, as with all Borges stories, there's so many footnotes and things you could go down.
And every
I
time you
did.
read it, there's something else. I think we have slightly different translations, which is interesting too.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm reading
Yeah.
from Andrew Hurley's the big blue book.
Okay. And I've gotten a PDF copy off the internet, and I don't know
Oh,
where this
interesting.
is, which is not great.
Okay,
Um,
but yeah, so
but
do you want to talk about the Rosy Cross people, the Rosy Crusade, or do you know anything about that? I mean,
I
I think
don't
it's like
know.
worthwhile.
Templar and Opus Dei and some of these quasi or religious European secret societies that either exist or are supposed to exist, right?
Well, sort of. So it's very relevant to the story. I mean, I think this guy doesn't do anything by accident. the the stories of the Rosy Cross or whatever, there's all the ways you can pronounce it, they were like fictional, like satirical stories about those kinds of secret societies. But then over time were misinterpreted, and people then started to identify it as like
This,
Rosicrucians or whatever. Yeah. So it was a joke so it's just like Tlön, you have like a
right.
fiction.
Right. You have sort of an after dinner entertainment of people in the 17th century starting this, like to see, which at this point, right, it's hard to even produce books. And the idea of producing a multi volume encyclopedia that gets uh, printed
Yeah.
in, thousands of copies is not even part of the information landscape.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of new things struck me. Like I hadn't read the story since the age of LLMs. Um, and so on my page 3, we get to a part where we're reading the Uqbar article once they have a
Yeah.
copy of it. And it says, we discovered beneath its rigorous prose a fundamental vagueness.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
So
that starts to resonate already.
mhm.
um,
Yeah. Oh, you were talking about
um,
of LLMs, right? Like
yeah,
you get this pristine prose, but they're like, there's
Chris
something going
Priscilla
on here.
Prose, but like, what is it talking about? Is not, and I find this a lot with reading him that he
Wow.
he somehow, seems to prefigure some of the things that we think. Um, and when he talks about Rosicrucis, which is just after that,
Yeah.
um, he goes into the depths of other literature about Uqbar that might exist if you can just find a book. Um, which, of course, in the era he's writing, which is mid 20th century, is not easy
Right.
to find a copy of an existing book or to find out if a book exists.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing to understand about Borges is like he was, I mean, I think a librarian, or like spent a lot of time in libraries, and like this, it's all throughout his books, is like this obsession with books and hauling books around, and um
organizing libraries and yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I mean, even so, that that night, this is the end of the first section. That night, BOA and I paid a visit to the National Library. We pored in vain over atlases, catalogs, the yearly indices published by
Yes.
geographical societies. No one had ever been in Uqbar.
Ever been in Uqbar?
Yeah,
Yes. And
so
then
good.
shortly after that, he talks about the Englishmen who, as many Englishmen do, suffered from unreality.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Um,
mean, so this guy, this is a fascinating character. What's his name?
Ash,
Herbert Ash. Herbert Ash.
Herbert Ash, yes.
Yeah, yeah. We have
So whose father was part of the secret society and who just before his death actually received this volume 11 of the Encyclopedia of Tlön, which is the
right,
fantastical land referenced in the literature of the non-existent Uqbar country.
right. And so when what we're seeing here, and it's very quick. I mean, this is like we're maybe 5 pages in at this point.
If
Like
that, yeah.
you've gone from a paraphrased quote to finding the article to finding an entire volume of an encyclopedia of an encyclopedia about something referenced in that article that hints at a larger, like 40 volume encyclopedia.
Right.
It's like um it's just like
Which
just
people immediately
immediately.
start hunting for as if, this is going to be the biggest thing in the world. How could this
Yeah,
exist? Can we find it?
yeah. And
Um, yeah.
well, and I mean, I kind of wanted to sort of cut ahead to this banal truth at this point, which is that the 40 volume encyclopedia absolutely exists. It's just latent. It's just people just have to write it, and we will.
Right.
Like yeah,
Yes. And the whole middle section about the epistemology of Tlön, which, as I was reading it, in this era of AI and so forth, where these things called the Hronir,
oh
where you
boy,
can basically, uh, generate an object by assuming that it exists or not
hmm
having the knowledge that it doesn't exist in a particular place,
yeah,
um, is so it's so weird. I mean, I
yeah,
find this a complete like brain twist,
hmm
but also very connected to, why are people going crazy as we're talking about AI, right? Why do people have such a wild range of feelings and stresses and sometimes cultish behavior about a technology? Well, some of this is a real brain twist. Like, I can say, make this exist, and in some kind of simulacrum, I can. What does that mean? Like
yeah,
for us, it's digital, and in the story, it's real. Like they generate golden crowns and all these kinds of art objects by sending
yeah.
people who don't know that they're not there to find them.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to go down this like trying to explain like what's happening there, but yeah, like there's this Tlon on Tlon, the people, whatever they are. I mean, it's presumably they're kind of like humans or whatever. But yeah, um they don't believe in object permanence at all. It's a purely idealistic species, basically, that like they own like, and, oh man, like there's this great line about like how um something about like sort of the life of the mind is synonymous with the cosmos.
Yes,
If I can
it's
find it. But
intense. And
like
then one of my favorite Latin phrases too, reconstructing the many and weighty tomes that are lacking ex unge leonum, which means from the claw to the lion.
yes. Yeah,
So, like taking something that you have a piece of and trying to generate the whole.
right. Which again, I'll say we've come from a paraphrased quote from a Uqbari heresiarch
Heresiarch.
to heresiarch to this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it's just like so, but in any case, so like these people are moving through the world not believing that anything has like there are permanent objects. So they don't actually, I guess, I mean, the story of the Hronir comes about because you have like two different people looking for a pencil,
That's right.
and
And they both
one
have
finds the actual pencil, but someone else finds another pencil,
a
like manifests.
shadow or a pencil, or which one is more real.
Yeah,
But this is such a synecdoche for trying to generate a world
right.
through
That's right.
an encyclopedia.
Right. Well, and also, I mean, it's kind of a testament to, I mean, I'll go, I think Borges is pretty consistent in this, is that he's just like, language is our universe. Like, it's how, I mean, it's a huge part of it, I guess. And the point is, like, you can, I mean, those of us who work in product or whatever, but we see evidence of this all the time, of humans describing a thing and then that thing existing later.
Yeah.
You know, we figure out how to make it happen. Of course, on Tlön, it seems like they just sort of like emerge spontaneously, but
Right.
yeah, but we do
But
that
then,
all the time.
yeah. And so then you have this kind of description of how this works. And then you have the description of the inventors of Tlön, who are a
Yes.
secret society, right?
Right.
Which he describes as a secret society of astronomers, biologists, engineers, metaphysicians, poets, chemists, algebraists, moralists, painters, geometers, directed by an obscure man of genius. So
Yeah.
it's a cult of some kind,
Mm-hmm.
right? That has as its aim the realization of Tlön for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, did they also create Uqbar to create the gateway to Tlön?
Well, so yeah, I think that we have to just kind of like make some conjecture here, but there is
Yeah.
this line about, I mean, the one of the main funders, if not like the main funder, is this like slave owning nihilist guy.
American slave owner.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's like, you idiots, like, why stop at a country? You should create a planet. And
Yeah.
so
I had
I
that
wonder if,
highlighted too.
yeah,
It felt very American, and one of my reads on what's going on with tech right now is
yeah,
that people are being encouraged to adopt really big ambitions and to not compromise them, and to kind of say, like, that the grandest version of my ambition must be realized. And I think that is a messy and dangerous dynamic in a lot of ways. I'm thinking about things like when Crisis Text Line failed their community completely by handing over their data to train AI when it was
mm,
incredibly sensitive data about people's mental health. And the explanations about how they did it and why they did it ended up being, well, we adopted a mission that said our job is to eliminate mental illness. We took, like, we support people in crisis from text, and we made this big mission. And then we got way over our skis because, the board is looking at, like, well, what's the thing we can do to eliminate mental illness? And the importance of doing that is obviously more than safeguarding these little bits of data in the now.
right.
And, in some ways, I think that not a country, a planet bit is a real turning point in sort of what happens with the secret society. They go big. And
Hmm.
we see this with a lot of the folks operating in Silicon Valley now. Like, we're not just going to, make things more convenient. We are going to, create a multiplanetary society, like, as soon as possible.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's alarming. Well, and I mean, and I think I'll see you
A lot.
calling. No, it's a lot. I mean, no, but I'm gonna up the ante a little bit, in the sense that, like, Borges ends like tying this kind of thinking explicitly to, like, to Nazism. You know, he's just like,
Yeah.
you know, this was written in 1940, um, and he's like, the story to me is a warning. He's like, look, ideas are pervasive and they shape
Wonderful.
human behavior. They're extremely powerful,
Yeah.
and you can create anything, and you can convince people that the world should be a way, even to this, like, I mean, that's what's so wild about part 2 of the story, where he's describing people who don't even believe that objects have permanence, and they have language that is comprised, entirely of adjectives or entirely of, forget what, like there's two different like hemispheres of the planet that,
Yes. I
you know,
think the second one is like it's like long and short verbs or something like that.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
only verbs, only adjectives. But he's just like, look, like
The monosyllabic adjective. Yeah.
yeah. Right. So so like, um, but what he's doing, however, like weirdly or even like ineffectively in some ways, is trying to point out, he's like, humans can literally believe and operate in any way possible, and that in ways that are very hard for us to imagine. And that,
Yeah.
trying to point that out, like anything's possible, and then pointing out like it's already happening where weird ideas are taking over entire populations, and that's something to be worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, right? This is science fiction.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a way that I, for me, connects a lot to Le Guin's work and so forth. And I'm sure she was a big Borges reader. But,
Yeah.
you know, thinking about the implications of different conditions on humans and what we might do um, is a big piece of what is so interesting about science fiction. Um, and I was looking actually at the piece after the description of the northern and southern hemispheres. I had just written in my notes LLMs because there's a lot of, the noun is formed by an accumulation of adjectives, like in whatever way that works. Um, at times, the words are determined by mere simultaneity,
Wait, is
which
that a
is,
reference to the book, or
yeah,
that's
that's
a line from, yeah.
that's a line in the translation that I have.
Yeah.
Um, and there are famous poems made up of one enormous word.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it also says that the language of Tlön is bigger than ours; it encompasses ours.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's something about the language just being able to contain like all possible objects. Um,
And outcomes, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Um, this, I mean, the funny thing about Borges is that like he's kind of, I have not, I've owned this book for a very long time, and I've never come close to reading all of it. Um, but it's wonderful to see the sort of the same thing showing up over and over again. Like
yeah.
so much of this corresponds with the analytical language of John Wilkins, which isn't even in this book, which is
Mm.
it was
Hmm.
it's apparently it's a letter that he published in like La Nacion, in the Buenos Aires newspaper. Just sort of,
Really?
yeah. I mean, I different times, but like, it's the kind of thing I think would show up like in the New York Times, like
Yeah, yeah.
magazine or something like that. Who knows? Um, but this notion that again, what I said before, like language really does allow us to imagine anything. It's all there.
Anything.
Everything's possible with language,
Right.
which makes LLMs so,
Simple, that the language is the right language. I mean, I think, we see a lot of contestation around language now, even with what's happened politically recently,
mhm.
where certain words have become disfavored and removed from government documents. And that reminds me of some other writers. But the
Yeah,
what the reason I think about this in Silicon Valley cults is so much like we were trying to take new terms and use words in new ways and write
right.
enough language that we can actually, change the world, really, is what the secret society is trying to do after getting this directive from the American slave owner. Like, create a new planet, change the world, which is something
Yeah,
we hear all the time.
yeah. Well, there's a wonderful line from the show Silicon Valley. I used to quote all the time. When I worked at Amazon, I worked on sustainability stuff and
Yeah.
would make fun of this quote, but it's the CEO of Hooli saying, I don't want to live in a world where someone else makes the world a better place better than we do, or something.
Oh my God, that character is so great.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's perfect. Um,
And this is also a story, it's a story about successful hubris. But it really doesn't
to an
have the
insane
morality
degree.
element that you often get in the stories about hubris. It's like, no, they won.
The Tlönites
Yes.
one, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, the ideas start invading the world. They start taking over,
The
but
physical
there's these,
object.
yeah. Okay, so confession time. There might be a tab open in my browser right now for a tungsten cube because of reading this. I was like, maybe I should finally buy a tungsten cube. Like, I'm intrigued.
Right. Are you intrigued or do you just want to make sure you're on the inside?
No, I'm actually like yeah, yeah. I'm in. I'm like, do they make tungsten cones? Because that's
Yeah.
the. I mean, this is an awesome part of the story. This is one of like the coolest kind of, I think,
Yeah.
gnarliest parts of the story is they're staying. Let's see, they're staying somewhere like they're like at a
I think they're in
hotel
Buenos
somewhere.
Aires again, right?
They're in
Or
Buenos Aires, but there's like somebody in the hallway. Actually, I think I have it here.
there's a drunk youth in the hallway, like making all
Yeah.
this noise. Yeah.
Well, they don't even realize. They just hear this like this drunkard out there, and a man's insistent carrying on. They think it's from the storekeeper's fiery rot gut, so just think he's like struggling through some
Yeah.
awful booze. And then they're
And he
surprised to
died.
find he's young. Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, he's young." Um, and he's wearing a gaucho belt. So, which to assume, so this is like a young man from the countryside or something like that. Um, and but yeah, but something that had fallen out of his, some coins fell out of his belt, as had a gleaming metal cone about a die's width in diameter. A little boy tried to pick up the cone-shaped object, but in vain. A full-grown man could hardly do it. So, oh man, it's so awesome. So the idea being that like somehow, not only like these ideas are coming from Tlön and invading the planet, but even like actual physical
Yeah.
material that we don't even
Well, and he says later,
concept.
because they've been investigating the full encyclopedia that's been revealed, that
Yeah,
these are images of divinity in certain regions of Tlön,
that's right.
and they're
Yeah,
showing up in this world.
yeah, yeah. Those small, incredibly heavy cones, made of a model, not of this, made of a metal, not of this world, are an image of the deity in certain Plonian regions. Oh man, um,
It's so intense when this happens.
yeah.
It's
So
scary.
it is scary, but I mean, and I think, but the point is again, like you were saying before, like you'll write a sentence and you're like, how do I explain this to myself in the '90s or to somebody in the '90s? Like you couldn't do it, and there are all sorts of technological objects and tools that we have available to us that like would be absolutely mind blowing to anybody just 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, whatever. Things
Yeah.
are moving so quickly. So it is already happening. Like stuff is entering the world that would have been very hard to imagine before.
Would have been fantastical. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I want to, yeah, I want to lean in though to this part where he talks about Nazism, because
Yeah.
and just go a little bit harder on like the tech cults and what the issue is here. So like, um, man, okay, this is great. 10
Go
years
for it.
ago, 10, yeah, 10, this is towards the end, it's like the third to last paragraph. 10 years ago, any symmetry, any system with an appearance of order, dialectical materialism, anti-Semitism, Nazism, could spellbind and hypnotize mankind. How could the world not fall under the sway of Tlön?
Like a clone.
How could it not yield to the vast and minutely detailed evidence of an ordered planet? It would be futile to reply that reality is also orderly. Perhaps it is, but orderly in accordance with divine laws, read inhuman laws, that we can never quite manage to penetrate. Tlön may well be a labyrinth, but it is a labyrinth forged by men, a labyrinth destined to be deciphered by men. I'll just stop there. There's another bit somewhere about chess masters and angels, which I got to find.
Yes.
But like,
Yeah.
but pointing out that like what's seductive here
is that it's
is,
ours.
and that we
Yeah.
understand it and that it makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
ordered and we made it, and that this is so compelling that we have to fall under its sway.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to, because I didn't know this story about Crisis Hotline. Um, but what strikes me also about, and I'm not a mental health professional or have any expertise in this at all, but like, to me, it's like, yes, they should not have like just given
Yeah.
out their data to the AIs, but B, I'm like, hang on, is it a good mission to eradicate mental illness? Like, I'm not on board with that concept that that's something that we could do. To me, that sounds to me like a Tlönian endeavor.
Right. But I think a lot of this stuff is, I mean, I think, yeah, that what I'm getting at with that, which is a relatively small story of this time, right?
Yeah.
And they made amends and they did a bunch of actually pretty reasonable repair.
Okay.
Um, but when you look at some of the missions that we ascribe to some of the people we would think of more as Silicon Valley cultists, it's like
Yeah.
we want to get past the human, right?
Yeah.
We want to get to a world where we're all uploaded, and we think that having several quadrillion people uploaded in orbital habitats is better than having a few billion happy on a planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's,
mean,
I was like, is that better because we made it?
yeah. I mean, I have this image in my mind of, so I was very lucky to, when we lived in Europe for a while. And so we lived in Munich for 3 years. And during that time, we took a road trip to Split in Croatia and like hung out, like went to the beach and stuff like that. And we're at the beach and these dudes show up, these Croatian guys, and they're just kind of standing like shin deep in the water, and they have like a racquetball or something like that, um tennis ball or something, and they just play handball, just like hitting it to each other like that, like just keeping the ball in the air for as long as they can. And they end up, of course, inevitably like diving for it and splashing around in the water. And I'm like, this is the future for me. Like, if I would be fine if I could automate all sorts of aspects of my life, and I'd also be fine if several people end up being billionaires and launching themselves into space as the result of me paying for these services, if I could be left alone to just like bop a tennis ball around with my friends in peace.
Right. Enjoy the
I don't know if I
sunlight
could do
and
that
water. Yeah.
forever, but like,
Yeah.
but there's something to that where I'm just like, I'm also thinking of, there's an old 90s song, well, an oldie at this point, by the band Porno for Pyros, but called Pets, which like the refrain is "We'll make great pets." Like, in the future,
Right. Oh yeah, yeah,
humans are
yeah.
just gonna be pets.
Humans
It's
will
a great
make
song.
great.
Yeah, great guitar solo. But like, I'm I'm kind of okay with that. And I actually think that like Borges sort of ends the story in this. He's just like, you know what, this is happening. I'm just gonna get back to translating
I'm
this.
gonna get back to the library. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I can't do it. I think, I mean, I think I'm more of a fighter, although I think I'd also be intrigued by Tlön.
yeah,
Um, but, one of the sentences in mine is like, almost immediately, reality yielded on more than one account. The truth is that it longed to yield.
man, so good.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that?
Flop overtake the internet. And, we're seeing an information environment that seemed orderly to us being overtaken by waves and waves of generated content.
Yeah,
Um, and of course, I think back to the Bush administration and the like, well, you members of the reality based community quote that I think it's Donald Rumsfeld. I can't remember which one of them it is, but it's one of those guys from the Bush
yeah,
era saying like, oh yeah, that's cute. You're in the reality based community. Um,
yeah,
since that time, it's been harder to access a shared reality. Um,
yeah,
and uh, oh, here's the chess masters and angels.
Oh,
Enchanted by its rigor, humanity forgets over and again that it is a rigor of chess masters, not of angels.
yeah. So, okay. Let
Enchanted
me,
by, yeah, go.
yeah, let me, I mean, yeah, there's a few things to respond to there, but yeah, like the, there's this notion that we can describe reality, right? And so like, and really what it is that if you're in a position of power, if you have control over the media, if you have control over the algorithms that dictate what appears on people's screens, you do get to dictate reality to people, at least the people who are like
Right.
enchanted by those things.
Yeah.
And so this is a huge issue for us. Like what we do at Radiant Earth is like our mission is to increase shared understanding of our world by making data easier to access and use. So like
Mm,
we're deluded by this idea that like, well, we could actually have accurate data about the planet, and then like if we all agreed on that data,
right.
then we, I'm not saying like everything would be great, but like we at least need to try to do that.
Need a foundation. Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's always flying in the face of like power, where it's like no matter how much sort of like good data and how much good faith we have, if somebody has a bully pulpit, they can say what's worth worrying about, what isn't worth worrying about. Like they get to describe
Yeah.
who's in
They
and out of
absolutely
the
get to.
reality club.
And we
Yeah.
had some powerful and stable institutions for a while that, however problematic broadcast media might be and however limited, it provided a version of that.
Yeah.
It's funny, I read a lot of science fiction, and one of the things I keep thinking lately is that the really fantastical part, whenever we're talking about societies that deploy advanced technology for the benefit of all, the really fantastical part is the resilient institutions that manage those technologies and make sure that they are used for the benefit of all. It
Yeah.
turns out those are really hard to create.
Well, yeah. No, and they need to be and well, it, yes, and but we have to create them, right? Like so like
Yeah, we
that
don't have an option. If we are going to work with the technology, we have to create them.
yeah. We need conventions and institutions to help us govern it,
Yeah.
or yeah, I mean
But then
it,
the culty part, right, is that of course, like we use some AI at work.
mhm,
Um, I don't generate emails of mine because I like writing, but this got a lot of uses. But the people who are thinking about, this future of artificial general intelligence are really kind of talking about a compliant God that is going
yeah,
to not require these institutions, it's just going to be aligned and it's going to, you know,
yeah,
continue iterating towards the good and leaving out the idea that somebody has to define the good. Uh, and this story gets in the middle of my thinking about this so much as we have this unaccountable secret group of men, of course,
hmm,
working with the legacy of this American slaveholder
right,
to bring about and change the world in a direction that I'm not even sure they think it's good. They think it's interesting. Like it's
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
maximum philosophical screwing around that they want to just implement everywhere.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, um, yeah, it's hard to know like what the motivations of these guys are, and the
Yeah, we
billionaire
don't meet them in the story.
Ezra Buckley, I think is his name. But yeah, you don't
Yeah.
really know that much more about him. There is an interesting maybe clue though that's very relevant to like what you're saying, and is also very relevant to like AI slop, which is that the man, let's see if I can find it. But like there's okay, I found the Cosmos thing, but I'll have to come back to that. But basically like the philosophers of Tlön were not interested in truth. They're just like interested in like fascination
Yes.
or like
Right.
surprise and stuff like that. And um I've never read Infinite Jest. Um, but I think there might be some correspondence there. Just the idea that like we've been building this apparatus for a long time of things that will just like mesmerize us, and
And
so
we're
much is so
truly
good.
not a consideration.
Oh no, no,
Yeah.
it's just be entertained, and like the devices are getting very good at doing that. I
Yeah.
it is Instagram is like my drug of choice for this kind of
Oh,
stuff, and
okay.
like
I'm blue
it
sky.
eats up.
I'm
Yeah,
private text.
But these things can eat up plenty of time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one other thing about Ezra Buckley, this is something
Yes.
else I highlighted. So he's an atheist.
Yes.
And it
He's
says,
anti Jesus. He's like, no,
yeah,
make sure there's no Jesus involved in whatever we craft.
right. The work will make no pact with the impostor Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So incredible.
But then, so he did not believe in God, but he wanted to demonstrate to the non existent God that mortal man was capable of conceiving a world.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is this what is it? The terrifying or banal truth?
Yeah.
I
Right.
think it is. I mean, I kind of think it
Yeah.
is. It's like the truth is just like all of this is made up. Just so you know, all of it.
That's right. Every last bit of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, in fact, he makes a reference to it's another like Latin thing, but maybe it's French. It's like philosophie
Oh, philosophy de,
Uqbars or something like that.
yeah.
Hang
Yeah,
on,
yeah. Where is that?
it'll be in my search history. Philosophie des Als Ob,
Yeah.
which is the philosophy of as if. And it's a book by Borges, incredible. It's a 1911 book by the German philosopher Hans Wallinger. So just again, Borges
You
just
can go so
making
deep. Yeah.
random references to like deep cuts. But like, have you read *Sapiens*?
No. Who's
The
that by?
Yuval Harari. It's by
Okay.
Yuval Harari. It's pretty
Okay.
good. I mean, like I think he's a kind of annoying, but like it's but he leans into this very heavily, explaining *Sapiens* as sort of the history of our species. He's just like humans do live in like a world of abstractions. You know, we have things like human rights is something we just like made up. Like there's like, yeah,
Right.
human rights are a thing, and these are what they are. Money is a thing that we've made up, but it completely guides. I mean, nation states as
Yeah.
well are like a thing that like we just all agree on these fictions, and that's the horrifying and banal truth.
Yes. The other text I think of a lot in interpreting some of what's going on is Susanna Clark's Piranesi. Have you read that?
There's a past episode about Piranesi, and I think it's very relevant to this story. I was thinking the same thing. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, well, I don't want to give too many spoilers because actually the reveal is pretty important in Piranesi, but this is a
this is an all spoilers podcast.
all spoilers.
It, yeah,
So Piranesi starts out being about this guy who's trapped alone in a world that is made up of marble halls, and there's a few other people around, but they're all dead.
mm-hmm.
And then you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. You spend most of the book not knowing what the heck is going on, but he's visited occasionally by people that we would recognize as normal. And it finally transpires late in the book that he was trapped in an alternate world by these cultists who thought a lot about accessing parallel worlds,
Yeah,
and he has no way to escape until somebody does show up and eventually get him out. But I I think about the information environment and the people who have gone into an alternate information environment and how we're going to get them out if the reality-based community ever does win back the high ground.
yeah,
And that book just, it hits me so hard on that level. But this one too, where he's warning about the alternate world intruding, not being able to push somebody into it and trap them in it, but that it's actually going to come here. It is here. We are
yeah,
seeing metal cones dropped on the street.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this is it opens up a whole conversation around just progress generally. Like, I mean,
Just
well,
to go little, yeah,
just to go a little, I mean, but again, I mean, going back to the notion of like of human rights, and also like the fact that this guy was like a slave owner, um,
yeah,
it's a crazy thing that like it wasn't that long ago. I mean, fortunately, it's every day. It's quite a bit further in the past, but like it wasn't crazy to know that there were people in your country who believed that it was okay to own slaves. Like they're like, yeah, that's
right,
fine. Like it was the Overton window was just like in a completely different area. Where you're like, yeah, like this is a thing that reasonable people can disagree on. Like that's we're 100 years past that being a thing that reasonable people could disagree on. We today would agree that that's good, but like that was hard won, and us getting to where we are has meant, and I think in a good way, like abandoning a lot of things that people thought were like important and they like held close.
Yes. I mean, I think that's right. And I think we're in the most open battle over the information environment that we've seen in my lifetime anyway. I'm over 50.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
we do see this elimination of words on websites. We do see this insistence that words as they
yeah,
have been used, come to be used in the last 20 years are, definitely not okay and have to be rolled back. There's a concerted effort to blame language for things that people are unhappy about and try to enforce different language.
yeah.
Um,
It's so silly, and alarming, obviously. Well, because there's obviously like that, with that comes like erasure of like identities and ways of being that
that
is not
exists.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that who do exist, like who are real. Yeah.
Yes.
um it's funny, we're dealing with this right now because we do a conference every year now
Oh wow.
it's called CNG conference. It's the Cloud Native Geospatial conference,
I,
where we gather all the nerds who love to talk about geospatial data, um
Fun.
and how hard it is to work with and make it easier to work with. But the point is, I'd say we run a conference. We actually, at the request of some of our government friends, where they were like, if you can call your conference literally anything other than a conference, we'll be able to get approval to go, because we're not allowed to go to conferences anymore. So I'm like, okay, we'll call it CNG Forum. They're like, that's fine. And that
Right.
there's some executive somewhere who's going to be like, we drove conference attendance down by 90%.
That's right. That's a win. Yeah.
Forum attendance is up by 3,000%. like, yeah,
Yeah. It's very strange and very slippery. I mean, and in this particular case, I think there's a fictional past world, right, that they want to intrude into the modern world in the way that, can I say fascist? Like fascists always want to look to a legendary or mythical past
yeah,
and be like, oh yeah, things were way better, and
absolutely.
nonsensically try to recover, right?
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think that's what Borges is saying there at the end about the sort of like, how could people resist this? And and again, he's writing 1940. He was like, look, it's just 10 years ago, like Nazism and anti-Semitism would just like completely entrance people.
And talking about how they have a symmetry and order to them, right? That
Well,
appeals in some
yeah,
ways to
that
people.
that's absolutely right. I mean, and I also think like, look, I work in sustainability quite a bit, so like I feel like I have a bit of license to talk about my community a little bit here. But like, I think it's a fatal flaw of the sustainability community and a lot of people that like, I'm going to assume like you would agree with, that are somewhat more left leaning about the kind of change we would want to see in the world, is that I'm like, hey, FYI, like you're like basically totalitarian sometimes. Like you have to understand that like where uh,
Yeah.
what you're talking about, when oftentimes if you're not careful when you're talking about sustainability, you might end up talking about, we know how the world is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like this. And and here are all the things we need to do to make sure that it's like this. And I'm like, I think we talked about this on this podcast before. I'm like, how many humans are allowed to exist in that world? Like, do you get to make that decision? Like,
Yes.
you can't.
It is
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yes, I agree. I very much agree. And yes, I'm guilty as charged on being left leaning. Um,
We
Proudly
both
so.
live on the
But
West Coast.
yeah,
Seattle versus San Francisco.
Seattle versus San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, one of the things that is most important to me is always human agency. And a lot, there are a lot of spaces where it doesn't seem to be much allowed. Human agency and human flourishing and the ability of people you know, to engage with the world that they are interested in and to have community. And uh, there are very scary places that you can go from a very well meaning left rigidity.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, and so here's where we have to talk about then, like, what is a cult? Like, in the sense that, like, because like my response to all this is like, and it's okay, like, to be wrong about something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm, I work a lot with the scientific community. I'm a big believer that, like, science, progress in science and new discovery relies on our ability to make bad assumptions and, like, prove them wrong, right? Like,
Right.
science is all about
Yeah.
proving things wrong. Or that's the way a lot of, like, success is attained, is through proving things wrong, which means, like, we should have license to be wrong and have bad ideas. Um, and I think so. Yeah. What do you think a cult is? I have, like, some thoughts about it, but, like, I'm curious to get your thoughts.
You know, cult is I think a cult is something that requires a commitment to something that most people believe is wrong, in either sense, and that really polices that commitment,
Yeah.
and takes a lot of action to further it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, like, um, against my wishes, I just constantly have to acknowledge, like, my religious upbringing in the Mormon church, which, like,
Mm,
I, you know, it's been around long enough that it's now seen like a normal religion, but, all religions emerge as cults or something like that. And so the somebody asked me this question somewhat recently, is like, what is the difference between misinformation and, like, a different ideology? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think and then it's also very hard to, like, figure out when a cult is bad. It's easy to figure out when a cult is bad when it's, like, someone's actively being harmed
yeah,
by participating in it. Um, but then there's some people who, like, are their lives are better because of their adherence
because
to,
they're in a community, and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But then society at large is not good because of that. And so it's hard to figure out, like, the scale
Yeah.
at which becomes a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think, starting with the 2016 election, and I initially thought that I was mainly seeing it on the Democratic side where there was this incredibly contested primary. You had people really contesting over the axioms, not just the propositions that are built up on them. And I think, then you had the
Mm,
general election, what happened with Trump coming in, where you there really is an information war about, what can we consider the basic truths,
right.
right? And uh, everybody says everybody else is in a cult.
That's right. Yeah. The- that's like, that's the way that you're just like, oh no, I'm good. You're the one that's in a cult. And it's like, there's countless of these clips online of, like, of, some, crunchy, whatever you want to describe, like somebody who looks obviously like a coastal elite college liberal person squaring off with somebody, like, just, like, decked out in Trump gear. And
Yeah,
they're both just pointing fingers at each other, be like, you're in a cult. It's like, no, you're in a cult. And
right.
and in many cases, they're both right. Like, there's not, like,
Yeah,
all sides are, there's plenty of guilt to go around, but obviously, like, that's not how we're
yeah,
going to get out of this.
true. And then when I think about it in terms of Silicon Valley, it's sort of like, well, some of it'll come to be seen as a cult if it doesn't work.
Right.
But things that work, like, maybe Mormonism, aren't cults anymore.
Yeah, if that's called product market fit. uh yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean, like, I would say, like, crypto, like Bitcoin seems to have worked to some degree, but that's obviously a cult to me, I feel like.
that is definitely a cult.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it yes, I would say that in my
Yeah.
reckoning. That is a
Yeah.
cult. I mean, it sort of works, but they didn't bring about the world that they wanted to.
No. Well,
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, they're
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's go closer to home and talk about the civic tech cult and, like, the open data cult, like, that I've
Yeah.
been more of an open data cultist for quite a while. You
Yeah.
go first.
So I do, And I've said things recently, like I have said, tech needs civic tech. Tech needs civic tech to exist, actually, because it provides an alternate way. And if the tech cults are to find their way back, like we need civic tech to exist. So that's a pretty
Right.
cultish thing to say. I think what I am doing is so important, and I'm so committed to it that, the idea was we could infiltrate government and bring technology into it and use that as a lever to change the relations of that institution to the people that belong to it. That's a pretty giant idea.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked, though it's still got a shot.
Yeah.
Has
Well,
been, had some bright spots, but
it's a meaningful challenge to work on, I would say. Um,
what about open data?
well, I mean, so I've been on record recently, and I'll put this in the show notes, but like I gave a talk a couple months ago. I mean, speaking of like tech bros and cults at the Chan Zuckerberg initiative, their open science meeting. Um, and you know, kudos to Mark and Priscilla for giving so much money to biomedical research and stuff like that. But basically, I came out and I said, like, look, like the call for open data has just been very naive. Like we've been thinking it's been magical thinking, and it's been a dogma. And so I explicitly say, like, there's been a dogma around open data um, that I think
Very, if
is
you build it, they will come. Like, just
totally,
get the data out there. Yeah, it's
yeah,
magic. Yeah.
yeah. And so I'm like, look, we just have to grow up and move beyond that dogma and be willing to learn hard lessons. And the um we've just resisted doing that for a long time because you want to the issue with these cults, I'd say like the civic tech cult and like the open data cult, which I normally don't refer to them as cults,
Okay.
but like if we think of them as cults, I think one of the things you can realize is that like there are heresies within those communities. So you can't say be like, hey, I mean, for like the thing that I get beat up for a lot these days, I'm like, hey, maybe it does make sense to charge for access to data sometimes so that we actually like have revenue to keep producing the data. And people are like, they're just like, you're gonna burn in hell for saying that. Like, oh,
Well, I think, open data as a branch of the open source cult, which is a stronger, bigger cult
yeah,
with,
yes,
a lot of practices and schisms and,
oh yeah, and profits
yeah,
and all sorts of
and profits and,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think all of us who identify as civic tech folks got a real wake up call when people showed up saying basically the same things we were saying and started tearing things down.
like Doge,
And yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
um,
it's been the conversation of the whole of all of 2025. It's everyone being like, "Oh, hang on, not like this." Like,
right.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
and I've had some really interesting conversations with people about, like, so can you justify what you were doing? Like, if your methods can be used this way, like, what's to justify your actions?
yeah. Well, I mean, to bring it back to the story, because
Right.
I do think, well, no, it's fine. This is the point of the podcast. Is like we should go off the rails. Like, uh, um, I mean, I really think that the end of the story is so interesting again with like the call out to Nazism, where he's warning people. He's like, you don't understand. Like, we we think we're smart, and like chess masters are one thing. Like it's one thing to understand a game that has a very clearly
Very
defined set
complicated
of
rules,
rules.
clear
Yeah.
rules, yeah.
Yeah, there's a limited universe there. However vast it is, but that's within the realm of human comprehension. What reality actually is like completely something else. That's what he's talking about, like the rules of angels or something like that, or the laws of angels. It's inhuman. We can't comprehend it. So the risk is always, and I would say like for the civic tech community, the open source, open data communities, a lot of these other, let alone the Silicon Valley like billionaire weirdos, is like it's the belief that we understand actually how things should
Everything.
work.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. That we can understand everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we just need a lot more humility all around or something.
Yes. Yes. I think that's true. And
Yeah,
then part of me goes towards this maybe very feminine idea that like
Ooh,
we need to give people enough that the seductiveness of these systems of order is it gives them enough space to say no. We need to take
absolutely.
care of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why I'm saying look, I just want to whack a racquetball around with my friends in Croatia, like at the beach. Like, that's a very
Yeah.
privileged thing to ask for. But really, I mean, is
Everybody
that
wants
the
to have
future?
time and leisure to hang out with their friends in the sun.
Yeah.
Everybody should have that.
Yeah. Actually, another episode of this podcast, I've read only one Le Guin story and I need to read more. So just talking about some feminine ideas, but
Yeah.
it was
Good
a
stuff.
Wizard of Worthsea.
Yeah.
And which has stuck with me. Shout out Mark Coatney if you're listening to this. He's the one who came on to do it with me.
Nice.
Um, it was just this understanding that she's so piercing, so good at this. She's like, if you become powerful, you're subservient to that power. This is a booby trap, like, or it's a booby prize. You're just like, congrats, you're super powerful. Now you're stuck with
Now
all
you're
this power.
screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that whole trilogy is so, so good.
Oh yeah. Okay, I've only read the first one, so
Yeah.
I've got a okay.
Yeah. But she thought a lot. And actually, her writing on technology would be another great thing to put in the show notes.
Yeah.
There's a
Send me a link.
wonderful essay. I'll send it to you. And one of the most piercing things in it is she says, we think a lot about high technology and software and all of this, but like if you don't understand how to make it, it is a technology. Technology is what structures our active relations to the material world. It's like,
Wow.
oh, yeah,
Yeah. This is why it's so important that you're a technologist.
that's right. That's why I'll claim it.
Yeah.
And why I'll still claim Civic, because I really do think my cult is right. Um, but I think a strain of technology that takes account of institutions and what they owe to people who belong to them is an important one to have in the mix.
That is a great sentence. I mean, can you please say more about that? Like like define a little bit more about civic technology and like, yeah, it as an interface to
To,
governance or
yeah, I mean, so I think about institutions as things that exist not just at scale, but over time. You can't have a momentary institution, right? But it has to have
right.
a certain scale, but it also persists in time. So you can have everything from like a neighborhood restaurant that has, been part of thousands of people's lives as a small institution, or you can have like medicine, which is enormous as an institution. And a lot of how well we do is structured by how we relate to the institutions that are part of our lives that
Yeah.
hopefully give us, that hopefully enable our belonging. And there's a lot about people being excluded from institutional belonging through racism and sexism and all kinds of class structures.
Yeah.
But if we can shape the way institutions use, the material, it's not really material, right? The way that institutions use the digital to relate to the people that belong to them, um, that's the theory, have this really positive effect on that belonging and the responsiveness of the institutions.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. We're in agreement there. I mean, and if you can correct me on this, but like as an example, like you'll have like interfacing with the government can be expensive to people, like cognitively, like
Yes.
all the
Pensive,
forms you have to fill out. Um,
depressing,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
make you feel like you are not part of this institution, right? Like you are
that's
rejected.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, antagonistic in some way, even.
Yeah.
Um, and so you're trying to fix that. You're like, if we can fix this interface, we can reach more people, we can serve them more effectively, we can help them be less marginalized, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think most civic tech practitioners recognize at this point that it's not just the tech,
right.
that it,
Yeah,
right, uh, it's what people understand themselves to be doing through the tech, and it's who gets to shape the tech, and it's what policies are embedded in the tech, and what social relations are embedded in the tech.
that yeah. I mean, that's right. You can't like whatever. We've lived through this where it's like, oh yeah, like we'll build like a cool app on top of
Right.
a really bad system, and you know, yeah, I
Yeah.
won't.
We'll throw a chatbot on it these days.
That's right. Yeah,
That'll fix it.
which all well intentioned, of course, but
Yeah.
um, okay. Gosh, there's one other thing you said that anyway, but it slipped off my mind. Um, so let's land the plane. Feel like we do have to go back to Borges
Yes.
a little bit more. Were there any other pieces that you highlighted
Um,
that you want to make sure we don't miss?
Covered. We talked about the Fronir.
Oh man, did we?
Um,
The Hronier is like that whole part is so bonkers.
Out there, and he's
Yeah,
writing this in the 40s. It's crazy that he
yeah.
was thinking this way.
Oh man, I know. I'm just like, who was this guy? Like, how did he get away with this? Like, what's also awesome is like he mentions so many of his friends in the story, and he's just like, this is just me and my friends like making stuff up. Like,
Thinking about things.
yeah,
Yeah. But what if our thoughts and memories could be made manifest
yeah.
just by not
Oh,
telling somebody they weren't real? Like,
right, right. Well, then also like there's so he talks about the duodecimal system. Sorry, just
oh
reminded me of
yeah,
another one,
right at the
which is
beginning,
just
right?
right at the beginning. Yeah, well, because so like, but it's revealed. It's a clue to later in the story. So Herbert Ashe
Oh.
is working on like he's like
He's translating
cross
from different
referencing.
number systems,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he's translating from like the duodecimal system to like the some other system where like it's a base 60
Hexadecimal or
system,
something.
hexadecimal,
Hexadecimal, yeah.
sexagesimal, which is base 60. But then later it's revealed that Tlön does use the duodecimal system. So like they're like a century is 144 years. Um, and but like so another one of the so earlier on in the story, I'm just sort of like going down every kind of stray path, and I'm like, what is the duodecimal system? What does this mean? And there are duodecimal what we would call cults probably of people who are like a base 12 system is a better numbering system, and we should be like working to make the world adopt this way of looking at stuff. And it's awesome because it just right off the bat he's just get this great example of like here's another way of seeing the world and thinking about math that actually exists that we could do if we wanted to, but we don't.
We don't, right?
Yeah,
We've largely adopted tens, except for America, right? Where the attempt to bring in the metric system failed in the 70s.
right.
And
Thanks.
I
Have
was
you seen the George Washington sketch, the
oh
Nate
god,
Bargatze?
yeah. But like I was a
Yeah,
dorky
yeah.
kid whose parents bought me a metric system lunchbox in like 1976 when I went to
I'm not
school.
surprised.
And yeah, I'm sure you're not
Yeah.
surprised. um, the they attempted to do it by changing the signs and so forth, but they didn't have enough money to move the signs on the highways. So the metric distance was always like 2.77 or something, and the mile distance was flat.
Oh,
And people were just
fascinating.
like, this sucks.
Yeah. Amazing. That's like, oh man, like it's
Yeah.
incredible because yeah, you're just describing again how like it's sort of like there's a cost of adopting a system that we were not willing to bear, and it's like in that case there was a you could adjust the signs, but it created a cognitive cost to people that they didn't want to deal with.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. And created the idea. I mean, I think, one of the really interesting ones, going back to the 2000 election,
yeah,
this is a design story. So prior to 2000, the networks used to alternate what colors they used for Republicans and Democrats when there was a presidential election. Um, it's like who
really.
was red and who was blue, and sometimes somebody would be yellow. Yes.
Prior to
And
2000.
prior to 2000, and what happened, and it would always be one night because the election would be decided and nobody would be looking at those maps. But I was just seeing that, yesterday was the day the Supreme Court finally decided the election as the 25th anniversary um, of that. And so it was something like 6 weeks of looking at these maps where they were represented in the colors that happened to be there that year, with Democrats as blue and Republicans as red. And that became embedded in popular consciousness as like a red state is a thing and a blue state is a thing. and you could never switch them again. People started using them as, metaphors for particular sets of views and parties. And
That's wow. Like, I mean, this is like when I learned that like it was like in the early 20th century, like you would dress up little boys in pink. Like
oh,
that
right,
was a,
right.
you
That's right,
know,
because blue was for girls because it was associated with Mary.
sure. I don't know. I mean, like it's
I've seen
insane.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's the exact same thing. And it's like we just think like, oh, this is the way the world is, and it's supposed to be this way. And Borges does this magical thing where he's like, actually, the world doesn't have to be any way at all. It could be anything. Like humans are completely flexible. And also,
That's why
don't let
we're
anyone
here.
tell you the way the world is supposed to be. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yes, especially not any shadowy groups of geniuses.
Yeah. Or yeah. I mean, it's really funny because I talk about governance a lot as well. And then I think we can end this because we're like an hour and 20 minutes in. But like um I I have a line. I mean, it's actually in this talk that I gave at the CZI thing where I'm just like, we're working to create a shared understanding of our world, and we want to do this through improving access to data, but like this is not an engineering problem, right? It
Yeah.
requires like librarians and people know understand communication and negotiation, et cetera. Like you need all types to be able to do this because it's a human institutional effort, and creating institutions requires more people. But I think if I ever give this talk again, I'm going to just take the line from this story, just be like, it needs chemists and like mathematicians, like whatever the line was. That's like all these people reporting,
Yeah.
algebraists and poets,
Yeah.
reporting to like a single genius, which would obviously be me in this case. It'd be
Naturally.
like,
Naturally,
um,
yes.
anyway, it's just a
Yeah.
funny parallel there. Anyway, I'll give you the final word. I mean, we could talk about this book literally forever.
We can talk
We could
about
do
this
another
story
episode.
forever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think when I saw the tungsten cubes and I started to think about the
Yeah.
clones again,
Yeah.
it reminded me of this idea that people try to force a new world and that we should question that.
Yeah.
Um, and in this case, they are doing it through information production, right? They're writing an encyclopedia, which is
Yeah.
fascinating as far as some of the tasks we see on the internet. But you know, the change in the information system means now some people are trying to do it through technology. I'm trying to do it maybe through benevolent technology, if you believe that my cult is benevolent.
Yeah.
But the questions that we should have when we're asked to look at something that is too ordered, that is too structured, maybe the idea that code is superior to other kinds of practice, or, there's all kinds of ways to see this and say, how the heck did he know in the 40s what we were going to be experiencing in 2025? And what an amazing early warning of
Yeah.
some of the dangers.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's so bizarrely so timely. Yeah. Yeah. To
Yeah.
your point, like that he was able
Yeah.
to foresee things. And I think this, don't take this the wrong way, but like Borges was some form of conservative. Like he was a kind of conservative person.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was,
Uh,
I believe, not any kind of leftist at all. He was
yeah.
a little bit of a traditionalist. And
Yeah. But I think in such a pure way where like
right.
it's sort of like a very core conservatism, which is I would say humble, but he's just like, look, like whatever you think you're doing, you probably don't have like a full enough grasp of the universe to
Right.
really know what to do.
To
um
go in and make wholesale change,
yeah.
like
it
without, yeah, further
yeah
thinking.
it kind of in that sense, it's a sort of like we're in this soup, like for you to presume that like how to fix it is maybe a little bit too radical. And so
Yeah.
conservative in the sense of wanting to just recognize that there might be something to conserve about the human experience. I think that might be
I like
true.
that.
Yeah.
There's something to conserve about the human experience. I agree.
I worry about that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
all right. All right. Well, this is, man, it's so great to not only like talk to you again for the first time in a very long time, but for so long about such a cool topic. So
Yeah.
thank you.
so much fun to see you and geek out with you. It's
All
great.
right. Well, maybe we'll do it again.
I love it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. I don't have anything planned for January. I'm actually recording this on New Year's Eve. Just barely getting this out the door. I had a doozy of a latter half of December, just dealing with the flu and multiple family members also having the flu. But getting this out on time and really excited for the new year. Anyway, we'll see what comes out in January. I'm going to work on getting something out. It might be a discussion of pluribus. We'll see. But in any event, I'm so glad you're listening. If you've made it this far, just want to say thank you for listening and tell you how much I love you. It's just so wonderful to have people listening to this thing. If you enjoyed this, please tell a friend, rate and review, like and subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And just thanks. It's so fun to keep getting to do this. As always, the intro music to this podcast is by Secret School. And the outro music that you're hearing right now is called 3/10 of the Population by We. Let me know if you know of any grant opportunities to support this podcast. We might actually have some money coming in at Radiant Earth that we can put towards podcast production. So TBD on that. So either let me know if you have a grant, but also in the case that we might get one, let me know if you know anybody who wants to get into podcast production, like new media stuff. And we've got a pretty cool project we're working on here. And then also, I never actually bought a tungsten cube. So if you have one, you want to send it to me, let me know. Jed at texontext.net. See you next month. Happy New Year.